The 5 best self-help books that you've probably never heard of. In this video, I'm going to tell you about a handful of really good transformative self-help books that are not so well known. Okay, number 1, How to Raise Your Self-Esteem by Nathaniel Branden. This book was written in the 1980s by a psychologist and psychotherapist who focused on the issue of self-esteem. Now, a lot of people hear self-esteem and they think, oh, that means you think you're great and you tell yourself how wonderful you are. And that really had nothing to do with the concept of self-esteem that Branden was using in his work. A less misleading title might have been How to Improve Your Psychological Health or How to Improve Your Psychological Fitness, something like that. Self-esteem for Branden, he saw it as your genuine confidence in your ability to meet the challenges of life and the real sense of your own worth underlying your actions. So not what you think of yourself consciously, but what's actually going on in terms of your sense of your own value, your own competence, and your own worth. And this book is filled with practical exercises to work on that factor in your consciousness. It has a lot to do actually with improving your behaviors, making your behaviors more functional, which has a lot to do with the level of your self-esteem and the level of your psychological health. So, highly recommended book that you probably have never heard of. Second one would be The Life-Changing Manga of Tidying Up by Marie Kondo. Now, you probably have heard of Marie Kondo. She had, I think, a Netflix series, which I never watched. And she did write a best-selling book called The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up, which I never read. But I read this manga version of that book, The Life-Changing Manga of Tidying Up, and I can't recommend it highly enough. It's a manga, that's a Japanese comic book. So it tells a story of this woman being basically counseled by Marie Kondo. It's about what to do with her stuff, or I think she has an apartment that's a little bit messy. And you learn a lot of principles of what to do with belongings, how to organize space, and how to get rid of stuff that you're not using or that you don't like. And this is actually very powerfully transformative. If you have any clutter whatsoever in your home, I highly recommend this manga. It'll teach you things, and it can make a huge difference in your life. The idea is kind of that your stuff is sort of an extension of yourself. So if you have stuff that nothing is happening with, that's like an energy in you that's stagnant. And I've certainly found that when I deal with clutter, it has a transformative effect on my psyche. I went through this manga book and really kind of did everything that it said. And it's just one of the hugest energetic transformations I've experienced. So I'd really recommend this manga. Okay, third up would be My Voice Will Go With You. The Teaching Tales of Milton H. Erickson. Milton Erickson was perhaps the greatest psychotherapeutic genius in North America in the 20th century. He was known for his work in clinical hypnosis, and he was a real kind of wizard with that. He could put people into very deep trances, and he was very innovative in that field. Well, this book is a collection of the kinds of stories that he used to tell. He was always telling stories, and he had a very unusual way of using language, this kind of hypnotic way, and his stories always contained important messages, but it wasn't always obvious what those messages were. That way, you'd hear the story, and the message would somehow get into your unconscious mind, because the unconscious is this kind of processing mechanism. And so then you have the learnings on your own, rather than him teaching you by direct instruction, do this, be like that, etc. He would just tell these stories, and the learnings would arise within the person. This book is a very nice collection of some of those stories that he told. And, they're transcripts, so you kind of get to read it the way he told them. I highly recommend it. It's kind of transformative to read these little stories. Okay, the next one would be Shame. Free Yourself, Find Joy, and Build True Self-Esteem by Joseph Burgo. Now, this book came out, and I suppose it didn't sell as well as the publishers had maybe anticipated or wanted, and they repackaged it, changed the name to Building Self-Esteem, How Learning from Shame Helps Us Grow. You see, they kind of switched out the title and the subtitle. But when I read it, it was just called Shame. And it was very, very good. It was the author is himself a psychotherapist or a psychoanalyst, one of those two. And he told a number of stories of people working through shame and how they learned from it, how they were able to use it as an impetus to growth. Very good book. The stories are moving and relatable, so I recommend this one. Okay, and finally, this is a book written for men about dating called Mate: Become the Man Women Want, which was also repackaged at some point, I think. And they call it just What Women Want. But when I read it, it was called Mate. Now, it's written for men. I suspect women would enjoy it too. It's written by Jeffrey Miller and Tucker Max. Tucker Max is a popular author. He wrote a book, I think, called I Hope They Serve Beer in Hell, about his various adventures and misadventures. But Jeffrey Miller is a scientist. He studies evolutionary psychology, and the two of them got together to write this book. I think Jeffrey Miller provided the insights from science, and Tucker Max made it likely to be appealing to young men. The book has a certain kind of style where it will say things like, "Hey, bro," and "Listen, dude," blah, 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 which I honestly didn't really like. I don't talk that way. No one talks that way to me. And it seemed a little bit contrived, that style. But the content was really very good. It's very good about the psychology of mating and dating. And I think it's good for men to read, and maybe women too, is to get insight into men's psychology from the point of view of these authors writing for men about dating. This is not a book, by the way, about pickup artistry or anything like that. Really, the central principle is if you want others to like you, you should really treat them well. That's kind of the central thing. Be a good man. You have to kind of develop strengths of character, responsibility, kindness, that kind of thing, if you want to be an attractive mate. So it all kind of works out in the end. All right. I hope you find this video valuable, and I'll be back with more soon.